What's up and welcome back to another episode of Insights, the podcast built to help you with your recruitment and digital marketing. I'm joined this week by Brad Smith, our Chief Strategy Officer over here at Haley Marketing. Brad, how are you feeling this week, buddy?
We're doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you are one of the few repeat guests that we have brought back onto Insights. We haven't repeat guests on Take the Stage yet, but I think this is probably your second or third time over here on Insights, right?
I feel honored, Brad.
You should. You certainly should. How's everything been in your world lately?
Doing well. My kids are well into high school sports now, so that's been consuming time outside of work, and work has been busy, and so many people looking to drive leads.
I'm on the complete other end of that spectrum, right? I got a 3-year-old now. Brycer just turned 3. Blair's 7 months, so I'm on the complete other end of that, but equally as busy, probably equally as sleepy. I should probably take out stock and Monster at this point, the way that I've been knocking those down, but it's all a season and it's all a phase, right? So it's interesting. It's a good time to be alive.
Every phase is great, so enjoy it.
Yeah, I am. Brad, I want to start right off the top from a question that I got in my inbox just the other day from Ryan over at Allstaff. Ryan's a good friend of the show, and Ryan, I appreciate you reaching out and sending this one to me. I was going to answer it via email, Brad, but I thought since I got you on the show this week, why not just elevate it as a topic for Insights? So Ryan had mentioned that they recently started doing programmatic recruiting and programmatic job advertising, which is having programmatic means to make sure that you're getting every dollar spent appropriately on sites like Indeed and ZipRecruiter, for the listener who is unfamiliar with programmatic job advertising. But his question is then, do you have any recommendations for ways to find candidates outside of Indeed or ZipRecruiter or the major job boards? Do you have anyone who has success on Facebook for labor jobs? I want to find new sources of candidates outside of the normal job boards. Brad, super common question that I think we're hearing quite often is, how do we eliminate some of that spend over on Indeed or ZipRecruiter? Or if not eliminate it, how do we supplement it? So I want to pitch it to you. What else can we do to drive candidates right now?
Yeah, great question, Brad. But before I answer it, I just want to comment and say that I'm super happy to hear that it came in with programmatic to begin with. So if you're spending over like $2,000, $2,500 on job boards, which most staffing companies are, makes complete sense to shift that spend over to programmatic. And that in and of itself can help streamline costs, drive more efficiency, increase the volume of applications, stop wasted spend. So number one, great job.
Let's actually take a pause there. Let me interrupt you. So why does and how does programmatic job advertising help get the most out of your money on those sites?
So think about it this way. You've got oftentimes a set spend limit, right? You get a job for a high volume, picker packer position that you can get applications like that for. You can set rules within programmatic to say, hey, after I get 20 applications, shut off this spend and shift that spend to other positions that we need more applications for. I see huge waste with staffing companies in that they're driving way more applications for general positions that they need, and they're just wasting that spend where they could shift that spend into higher markup, higher revenue generation, higher gross margin positions that would help improve their bottom line. Then I think it can also help you identify and use data to make decisions on where specific types of jobs, roles, levels make sense to advertise on. I see a lot of wasted spend where it might be better off spending it on Zip or Indeed or some other platform. And you might drive a lower cost per click, cost per application, cost per placement. So it's all based on data. It's based on rules, and you're making more educated decisions on where to put that spend instead of just making an emotional decision, or instead of looking at the platform that's just the easiest to throw money at.
Got it. So then outside of that, how can we find talent in Q2 of 2025?
Yeah. So one of the part of the question, I believe, was on Facebook, right? Is Facebook successful at driving applications?
He specifically asked about Facebook for labor jobs. Yes.
Yeah. So yes and no. So you can put up Facebook job posts, but there's limitations. So a lot of those jobs won't be accepted. You can run targeted ads. If you're looking at running targeted ads, I would look at the specific geo radius of the facility. So if you have a facility on one side of town and it's difficult to get there from the other side of town and you're spending money reaching those people, you're throwing it out the window. So look at setting up a very tight geographic location. I would look to leverage maybe some local community groups. So look at your city name, look at jobs, look at other networking groups on Facebook and post there and engage. You could get a little bit more strategic and use things like reels or stories to get your job a little bit more visible in those areas. Short-lived, but it's going to help you get in front of more people because the Facebook algorithm loves reels and stories. But at the end of the day, if you're really looking to drive engagement and you're really looking to drive conversions and applications, you need to think about putting some paid spend behind it. And then you need to think about what the candidate experiences. So what I mean by that is your app needs to be simple. Maybe all you're doing is requesting a cell phone number, and then you're following up with SMS or chat or something else. Or maybe you're taking them over to a very, very specific landing page that engages a chat immediately with them. If you're taking them back to a long form application, you're wasting your money.
Go ahead, please.
I was just going to say, but outside of Facebook, I think there's so many other things that you can do. I would look at referral programs. I have so many clients whose referral programs are one of the highest GM activities that they do. Yeah. So leverage that existing database first. Look at local or grassroots. So I know a lot of companies for these types of positions are going to churches, mosques, community centers. I would look at partnering with different vocational schools. I'm located just outside of Buffalo, New York. There's BOCES, there's other vocational schools, there's training initiatives, there's high schools that have amazing programs that are producing people that maybe don't want to go the secondary education or college route that are perfect fits for these roles. I would look at job fairs. I'd get more niche focus too. You could look at veteran groups, or maybe there's a strong Native American population in your area. Look at those organizations and those employment centers. So I'd think about where there's untapped labor potential and go down that route.
Hey, it's Brad taking a short break to tell you about my friends over at Broad and Madison. If you're running a staffing firm and your tech stack feels more like a roadblock than a growth engine, Broad and Madison is your fix. With over 60 years of recruitment technology expertise, they streamline your systems, automate the boring stuff, and make your tech finally work for your team, not against it. They're not just another managed services provider, they're technologists first. With deep bullhorn know-how and real-world implementation experience, Broad and Madison doesn't just keep your systems running, make them smarter, faster, and more profitable. To learn more about my friends over at Broad and Madison and how they can help your staffing firm maximize its technology, visit broadandmadison.com. Again, that's broadandmadison.com. All right, let's get back to the show. Thinking about Facebook specifically, you didn't mention just relying solely on organic posts. So going into the Facebook app or going into desktop and going to facebook.com. And I say organic posts for the average listener who might not be, specific to the Facebook verbiage, making a post on Facebook. You didn't really talk about that in terms of a key strategy in driving candidates. Is there still value in posting organically or natively to the Facebook platform?
I think there could be, but you also have to think about how you're posting that content. And I mentioned reels and stories earlier.
Yep.
They're going to get a lot more visibility, especially if it's someone that's engaging. They're going to get a lot more visibility. Or if your individual recruiters are posting, commenting, sharing on their own,
right,
their personal networks are going to get more exposure. So I'm not saying not to do it. I think it makes sense, and especially because it can be easy, somewhat automated in some cases. So I'm not saying not do it. But if you're looking at replacing the job board spend, then you do have to spend a little bit of money to drive that reach.
Another area that you started going down to is looking at churches and mosques and looking at community centers and looking at specific groups. I think it's important as we're looking at driving candidates and thinking about driving candidate flow from different segments to understand different messaging for those audiences. Talk to us a little bit about the importance of lasering in on your target audience and messaging for each different demo.
Well, here's the deal, right? People don't necessarily want to work for a company or with a staffing company. They want to work with a recruiter. So be authentic. If you're active in your church, if you're active in the local community, lean into that. If you're active in the chamber, if you're active in business networking groups, lean into that and be authentic, be personal, be open, and realize that every opportunity that you're talking with someone, whether it's at the fast food counter, whether it's at the mall, whether it's at the sporting goods store, whether you're getting your oil changed, every single opportunity is an opportunity for you to recruit and share and build your referral network.
Yeah.
And make it simple.
Yeah, we had Rachel Arnold on Take the Stage last year, who works for Staffing Referrals, and she had talked about the value in an employee referral program. And I apologize, but I don't know the number offhand, but it is such a small number in terms of the number of staffing firms who actually have an active referral program. I see it as a huge missed opportunity. We know word of mouth marketing and word of mouth just, hey, Brad, I had a great steak last week. You should go to XYZ restaurant and have that steak too. The group chat the other day, our friend Matt Loza, our former co-host of the show, was looking for a fish fry, right? That's word of mouth marketing. That is very much, hey, I need a product. I need some sort of food. Where should I go? And asking friends. That is an employee referral program as well. And it strikes me as a little bit interesting that we don't lean into that. We don't lean into driving those employee referrals.
Yeah. And then, the next step of that is looking at re-engaging your existing ATS, right? I know you're a big proponent of that. I think it's an untapped gold mine in many cases. Yeah. All too often, I think our teams, our recruiters look at the path of least resistance. It's way easier to throw a job up on Indeed and get applications rather than go through and source from our existing ATS. How can we streamline that for our team? How can we serve up those candidates first before they go and spend money on Indeed or ZipRecruiter or some other platform? How can we leverage that database? And when we're leveraging that database through SMS, through email campaigns, through job alerts, how can we segment that data so that we're getting in front of the right people and not wasting their time? And then when we do get in front of them, how have we streamlined the apply process to a point where it is literally one or two actions to apply for a position and say that you're available for that shift?
Hey, it's Brad taking a short break to tell you about an offer exclusive to listeners of Take the Stage. 30 minutes of strategic marketing consultation with me, completely free. Hey, whether you're looking to drive more sales or more job applications, I want to help. Visit bit.ly/stage offer. Pick a time that works best for you. That's it. Again, whether you want to drive more applications or more job orders, I want to help. That's bit.ly/stage offer. All right, let's get back to the show.
I can't speak more highly about segmentation and then also making sure that we are doing everything we can to reactivate and re-engage the people who already know, like, and trust us. It's pretty much every call that I'm a part of. It's how do we fish in new ponds and get new fish on the hook? How do we recruit new people and bring them in? Often forgetting that we've done all of this work before. We've already vetted these candidates. And when you put somebody to work, right, let's say 100 people apply and you put one person to work, you now in theory have 99 other people that you could be going back to. Now, sure, maybe half of that are unemployable individuals or people who don't fit, right? You need a welder and they're nurses. Drastic extreme. But your 2, 3, and 4 in that slot of the one person that got the job, we should absolutely be going back to them and reactivating them, re-engaging them, staying in communication with them instead of always looking to fish and drive new applications from new faces.
Yeah, Brad. And there's another concept too I hear all the time. It's when you look in your local business community, there's two types of companies. They're either a client or they're a referral source or a candidate source.
Yeah.
So you can also look at those companies that maybe don't have the best employment reputation in your market. If they're not a client, let's use those as recruiting sources. Let's run targeted ads. Let's run targeted outreach to those people. Let's build a network within those companies and let's pull that talent out.
So Brad, to bring this full circle for Ryan and the listener, a lot of ideas here. If someone's sitting down thinking, okay, great, I hear you. Where the heck do I get started though? Because you just gave me another full-time job, maybe even a full-time job for 2 people, and I can't do all of that. Where do you suggest or recommend people get started in terms of recruiting outside of the big job boards?
Yeah. So outside of the big job, well, first, you're never going to most likely not going to replace those job boards. So
Full
number
agree.
one,
Full agree.
make sure that spend is used as efficiently as possible. Use technology and programmatic job board spend to streamline that cost. Number one, first thing to do. Next, I would sit down and I would evaluate your application process, and I would do it on a mobile phone. See what that candidate experience really looks like. Strip out all the stuff that you don't need. And you're going to get pushback, and you're going to have people that say, well, we need this information. You don't need it step one. You need it step 2, 3, and 4, but let's get that candidate in the door first. Then I would look at your social. What can we do to build a stronger employment brand? That's posting on social. That's being a valuable resource. It's also looking at your individual reviews on all of the different platforms and making sure that you have a strong brand that people want to work with. Then I would continue to build your referral network, and I would look for outside sources. I would form partnerships with local workforce organizations, economic development. I would look at churches. I would look at mosques. I would look at other places, other vocational schools where that network already exists, and you can build personal relationships.
Brad, for segment 2, I want to sort of softball an easy one to you. Well, easy for me at least. What's been on your mind lately? When you think about the number of calls that you have with staffing and recruiting firms, I know how many I have, so you got to have maybe double that every week. What are the best staffing and recruiting firms doing differently as it relates to their marketing in 2025?
They're actually following up. And I know that sounds so elementary, right? But I was just on a call. Well, I'll share 2 specific examples. I was on a call with a company, very fast growing organization, opening up in new markets, doing really, really well in a very tough market right now. And they looked at the data, and I know on the show and historically we have talked about, well, you need 8 to 10 touches, and then that 8 to 10 ballooned to 18 to 20.
Yeah.
This particular client is tracking every single touch. And they looked and they did analysis. And this year, on average, it took 70 touches to get a new client.
70?
Not 7, 70.
70 to have the conversation or to actually close?
Have a conversation.
70 touch points to have a conversation with a prospect.
Yes.
So we also know, not to cut you off, but we also know most sales reps give up at the 4th attempt. I've heard 90% of sales reps are quitting at the 4th attempt.
Yeah. And the majority are quitting after 1.
Right. We're human. I don't want to hear no, right? If I call you and you yell at me and say, get lost, I'm going to run away. Okay.
Right. How many
70 touches.
Yeah. How many are even getting to 7, let alone 70?
Wow.
Yeah. So I think what the most effective staffing companies are doing is surrounding their salespeople with air support. And what I mean by that is no sales rep is going to call 70 times. None.
If they did, they're going to turn off the prospect anyway.
100%.
Right? I don't want 70 calls from my wife, let alone a prospect.
Right. I won't tell her
or a staffing firm. Exactly.
Hopefully she's not listening.
Sorry, I promise.
But realistically, what can we do to get to that 70 point as quickly, efficiently, and as discreetly as we can? So we're going to surround people with re-engagement ads. So they come to your website, we're going to continue to surround them. We're going to be involved in groups. We're going to be out on the speaking circuit. We're going to be producing content. We're going to get them on sales funnel automation campaigns where we're not aggressively selling. We are sharing value. We're going to get them on top candidates or most placeable candidate emails. We are going to engage them. And the reason that it's taking 70 is because the hiring cycle has extended, right? Companies are being extremely cautious right now. So we have to be in front of them with marketing, with brand awareness, with brand recognition at the exact time that they have a hiring need. Okay, there's no shortage of staffing companies calling them. We need to be in the right place at the right time. So let's use that air support. Let's use marketing automation. Let's use sales funnel automation. Let's use remarketing ads. Let's use email marketing. Let's use social. Let's use in-person. Let's use drop buys and make sure that we have a structured approach and the sales team knows when to initiate a follow-up. If we can track and get them good intel for a follow-up, that's awesome. I had a client that is going after higher ticket sales. So they're going after not full enterprise organizations, but the mid to large staffing buyer. And what they do is they have a sales funnel automation campaign where they're reaching out to maybe 2,000 prospects, and they have them in the database. And they are using white papers, they're using content to drive engagement. And what's happening is they're not getting a ton of form fills. They're not getting people that are reaching out directly and saying, hey, I have a hiring need. But what they are getting is intel on what the biggest pain point for each of those individual buyers is. So we can tell what emails they're clicking on, what links they're clicking on, what topics are of interest to them. And then we can feed that information over to the sales rep to make intelligent follow-up. So if I know that somebody is dealing with tenured people leaving their organization and they're looking for a plan to help improve retention or onboard quicker, my salesperson can have a much more structured follow-up that leads to a revenue producing sales activity instead of just going in and saying, hey, do you have any job openings?
Do you want to land more clients and close more deals in 2025? Haley Marketing is offering big savings to help staffing firms like yours grow. Get $1,000 off targeted marketing campaigns, free tools to track your hottest leads, and no setup fees on services that help your company get found online. Plus, we'll even help you stay in touch with prospects for free. But you need to act fast. These deals end June 30th. You can visit bit.ly/BileyOffer to find out more information. Again, that's bit.ly/BileyOffer for more information. All right, let's get back to the show.
You mentioned a little while ago that we need to be at the top of the list when it hits the fan, right? So there's possibly, for lack of better words, no one's hiring right now, right? And if they're not, and let's accept that they're not, right? I'm not fully going to believe that, but let's accept that they're not. We need to make sure that we've done enough, I guess, air cover, ground support. We've done enough sales tactics, marketing tactics to make sure that when it does hit the fan and they need to call somebody, they know to call you. I was talking to a client maybe a week or two ago, and they had referenced an ASA webinar that I wasn't on, but it was basically all about day one. So when everything does go wrong for a client down the road, how can you be on their day one list so that they know to call you instead of somebody else? And I think a lot of the industry is reactive in the sense of we're looking at a site like LinkedIn, we're seeing that Brad's widget company is posting a job right now. So I'm going to call Brad at Brad's widget company to try to get that order and get it off of LinkedIn. I'm reacting to what I'm seeing instead of being proactive, putting in the 70 touches in Q2 so that I might be able to have the conversation in Q3 and Q4. And I love where your head's at because we need to be proactive. We need to control our own destiny here.
Yeah. And Brad, think about too, what content, what message you're sharing with people, and think about how we can use that as a way to qualify prospects. And let me give you an example. Let's say we have 3,000 people that we're targeting, and we do a piece or an article that talks about how to drive more value from your staffing company, or how you can work with your staffing company to reduce time to fill, or how to deal with a staffing company that is only filling 60% of your openings, not 100. Okay, those are very leading type of topics, not going to appeal to the 3,000 people. But let's say you find 50 that click on one of those articles. What does that tell you? Number one, it tells you that they're a user of staffing, so you've qualified them. Number two, it tells you that they're not happy with their current provider. And you know why they're not happy with their current provider. That is intel that your sales rep can use to create an emotional appeal with that prospect to engage an initial call.
Yeah, we're talking about arming the sales team with resources so that they can have strategic conversations, right? We're marrying the marketing and the sales function. We've talked countless times on this show, on the talk that I've been delivering across the industry on what the best staffing firms are doing differently. I've talked about marrying marketing and sales. That's exactly what we're talking about here. No sales rep is expected to make 70 touches. Again, I think if you did, you'd turn the prospect off more times than not. But having that holistic marketing umbrella supporting the sales team, I'm all for.
For sure, yeah. And then your sales team is focused on the A prospects,
Yeah.
maybe moving those Bs to As, and those C and Ds are on automation. And they're still getting those touch points. We're still in front of them when they have a need. And then when they do take an action on one of those marketing activities, we can use some lead scoring and some other metrics to drive them into a B or into an A and get them on your sales team's radar.
Brad, if someone's listening right now and they're not sure, again, where to get started, right? Just much as like the first segment where we're talking about doing a lot in terms of driving applications. If someone's not sure how to marry that sales and marketing system, where do you propose they get started?
I love taking a few different approaches. Number one, let's look at the last 10 orders that you received. Where'd they come from? What are some commonalities? How'd they find you? Why'd they reach out? Why'd they talk to your sales rep to begin with? Let's get some market intel and find out if there's a specific market opportunity, an industry opportunity, a common theme with any of that. Number two, I think we need to look at our messaging and our differentiation. It's not all about us. It's all about the value or the problem that we solve. I think too many staffing companies are making it all about them instead of all about the end buyer.
Yes.
That's a big challenge, and that's a big turnoff. Then I think it becomes a function of marketing and sales activities and touches and quick response. I mentioned earlier when we first started talking about this topic, the easiest thing to do is make a follow-up call. So if you get a lead, you better follow up with that within the first 10 minutes of that lead coming in.
Yeah. I was on a call actually yesterday and somebody, we had mentioned that they had 4 leads come through in the last month or two. And this individual didn't know about 2 of them.
Yeah.
And I have a good relationship with the person, but I basically in a nicer way said, well, those leads aren't viable anymore. The 2 that you haven't followed up with in 3 weeks, they have found the candidate or at least the partner that they need. That is no longer a lead at this point. You have to get back to people. That's the Amazon effect. Amazon has screwed that up for all of us, right? I order something, I want it here tomorrow, if not by end of day.
Yeah.
That's the exact same methodology.
And I was on a call yesterday where they're like, well, yeah, we got leads, but these leads are ghosting me. Looked at the sales activity, looked at the notes within the ATS, and lead came in. There was an outreach for like 48 hours until after that lead came in. Yeah, they ghosted you because you theoretically ghosted them.
Yeah, I mean, think about your local plumber, right? And I know, Brad, you're pretty handy. You could probably fix it yourself. I certainly cannot. But if you have an issue with a leaky faucet or something's leaking in your kitchen and you make a phone call, if they don't get back to me, I'm calling somebody else, right? I have an issue, and that issue is going to get progressively worse if somebody doesn't get here quickly. So you're going down the line, and now maybe finding somebody for an open role, you have a little bit more leniency than if your kitchen is flooding. But I think the comment stands where if I don't get an answer in the next, half hour to an hour or hear back from you, I'm going to somebody else.
Yeah. And then I just had another example of another client where we looked at inbound lead. It was entered into the ATS. There's sales activity on that, which was great, right? They followed up immediately. On the form that the client first requested, they had a very specific type of position they were looking for. They provided their cell number and they provided an email address.
Love it.
Terrific. Great intel. We know exactly what position. The sales rep followed up on that prospect in a timely manner, but sent an email and said, when would be a good time for a meeting? You have their cell number.
Right.
Use it.
Right.
Call.
In that case, absolutely. If they've given it to you 100%. I was recruited again today. Somebody just randomly texted me. That does nothing for me. But if they've given you their phone number, absolutely call them and text them.
Yeah. Pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I saw you had a need for a forklift operator. I've got 3 in my database right now. Great, skilled. They're vetted. Everything ready to work. Let me send them over.
Yep. Speed.
Eliminate friction. There's no need to send them an email, wait for an email response, then follow back up with another email, schedule a meeting, pick up the phone and call them. And if they don't pick up the first time, call them again. That's another trick I've heard. So, if you're calling and, Brad, I'm sure you've had this happen where you see some random number show up on your cell phone. You don't answer it. It goes to voicemail. If that number calls you back immediately after, What are you going to do?
I get nervous and pick it up. So I know where you're going with this too. I don't answer phone calls if I don't know them. It's just who I am. But if it's a local number, I guess I'm ingrained to assume the worst. So I don't know who it's going to be. So I do usually pick up on the second one.
Yeah. Pick up and have a conversation.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of that sales follow-up. And then your activity too. I see all the time ETS activity. Send an email, no response. That's the last activity. Why? Pick up the phone, call. If you don't get an answer, follow up with an email. And then a few hours later, call again. Follow up. Call. Follow up.
We need to put in the work. We need to put in the work, right?
Yeah.
I've seen it takes anywhere from 3 to 4 times the work for half the results right now.
We
know it's a tough labor market. We know it's a tough hiring market. We know the state of the economy. You can't expect to be doing the same tactics or fewer tactics that you were doing back in 2019, right? Pre-COVID today. You have to put in the work. You have to do more work. And the companies that are the ones that are standing out, and the ones that are actually surviving right now and actually doing really well.
For sure. Yeah. And if your company, your team isn't making those calls right now, might be a little uncomfortable to say, hey, stop emailing people. Let's pick up the phone and call. It might be uncomfortable, might turn some people off, and that might be a good thing for you.
Very good point. Very good point. That's our show. And thank you for listening to another episode of Insights. If you found this episode valuable, we'd love to know. You can message Brad on LinkedIn and share your thoughts. If you have a question for us, you can tweet us at Haley Marketing and let us know what you're thinking, or email info@haleymarketing.com. And of course, if you need a hand with your recruitment or digital marketing efforts, we'd love to help. Again, message info@haleymarketing.com and be sure you tell them that Insights sent you. For our Chief Strategy Officer, Brad Smith, I'm Brad Biley. See you next time.
Take care.